Sup, guys? We went 1-0 yesterday with a win on the Minnesota Twins. Part of mine was on the run line. It was sitting at a 1-0 game for a while. I'm like, oh, man. They were able to do it. They won 2-0. Pablo Lopez, nice start. I think I still handicapped that game correctly. He was the better of the two starters in the game. I just put out my college football week 1 video. I got 3 plays in there, and I'm an idiot, man. I forgot to talk about like the primetime night game, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. So I'll do it here, and hopefully everybody will find my analysis on it. I broke down like all these other games at least briefly, and totally forgot about Notre Dame and A&M because I was gonna save it for last before I talked about my actual plays. Texas A&M is up from -1.5 to -3 in that one. 53% of the tickets are on Notre Dame, but only 51% of the cash. So it looks like there is some legitimate line movement that's come in, and legitimate money that's come in, I guess, and moved the line on Texas A&M up to the -3. Notre Dame is the slightly public road underdog here. So people, I think, are kind of basing this off of what they saw last year, and they think Notre Dame is the better team, whatever. And I mean, I'm not necessarily going to say that they're not the better team. This line is kind of indicating that they are, I guess, because Texas A&M is probably going to get a lot of home court. Oh, it's not baseball. It's not basketball. I'm so out of it. It's not basketball season yet. I'm trying to look up Texas A&M's football schedule right now just so I can talk about this because I don't have it up anymore. But yeah, the lines are kind of the odds makers are kind of indicating Texas A&M is the slightly worse team because I think this game is at College Station. For some reason, I was thinking it was in Houston, but it is not. It is in College Station, so Texas A&M probably gets like 4.5, especially for a home opener, for a home field advantage. So the odds makers are telling you that Notre Dame is the better team. But in this spot, I like Texas A&M in this spot, and the public is also going to be on Notre Dame a little bit because of the rankings, of course. They just eyeball the rankings. Notre Dame is ranked 7th in the country, and Texas A&M is only 20th. So the public's going to think, oh, I'm getting money. I mean, I'm getting points on the team that's ranked higher. So why wouldn't I do that, right? Take them as an underdog. The better team would get points with them, even though they are on the road. I think that's kind of the public's way of thinking here. I disagree with it. I don't think I quite want to lay like the 3. This was close to making my card, Texas A&M. I was close to wanting to do this. But the line at 1.5, I would have liked it a lot more, obviously. It's now at the key number of 3, and maybe you could find a creative way to play Texas A&M, play a money line or something like that. This is an interesting game, man, because this is the coach versus the coached, basically. The coach versus the QB. As Notre Dame now has Riley Leonard coming over to their team, and he's going to be their starting quarterback. He's coming over from Duke, but who else is coming over from Duke? Duke's coach, Mike Elko, who was Riley Leonard's coach at Duke, is now the head coach at Texas A&M. So the coach is facing off against his former quarterback, which is crazy. I mean, that's the storyline here, coach versus QB. But I think that in that situation, man, the coach has the edge there. I mean, not only is Notre Dame going to have to adjust and gain some new chemistry with the new quarterback there, he's going to have to adapt to the new system. The players that are around him are going to have to adapt to playing with him. So I think there's going to be some growing pains there. And of course, there will be as well in Texas A&M because the coach is going to have to institute his new system. So the players are going to have to get used to that new system. So growing pains on both sides, which is kind of the reason I don't quite want to do this. But as far as the quarterback versus coach situation, I think that the coach has the edge there because he knows that quarterback. I mean, he coached him at Duke, so he knows exactly how he operates. He's analyzed a ton of game footage of him, obviously. He knows exactly what his tendencies are. So I think the coach is going to have an edge there and know how to shut down his former quarterback, Riley Leonard, there. So I think Elko actually has the edge here. And Elko has been a pretty good defensive coach. So I think him coming into Texas A&M, I think is going to help. I think we're going to see Texas A&M be pretty good under Elko. But again, it's going to take some time to adjust to his system. And obviously his first year there, he's not really playing with his guys there yet and whatever. But I still think that in this game, Texas A&M would be the side, the lean in that one. So that is the way that I lean in that one. Unfortunately, I forgot to talk about it in my college football video, but I'm talking about it here. Hopefully, people will find this and just watch all these videos. I apologize for that. Go watch my college football video for my college football plays, and I at least commented on pretty much all of the other big games and some not very big games as well. So hopefully that is helpful. Major League Baseball. I'm going to have one play in Major League Baseball. I was looking at potentially one other play, or actually two maybe. So I was looking at maybe the Philadelphia side here after they lost kind of badly to Atlanta last night, but I don't know, man. I mean, I think Philadelphia used a lot of their relief staff last night, so I don't think I would want to do a full game on this. Oh, well, yeah, they used 4 relievers. Braves used 3. So that's not really that big a deal, I guess. I lean to Philadelphia here. I'm not going to quite get to this one as a play, but Max Fried, I think people think that he's better than he is right now with a 3.5 ERA, 1.2 whip. His stats against Philadelphia in a giant sample size are just not good. In 258 at-bats, they hit 310 off him with an 868 OPS. So he has struggled against them, and he just saw them 2 starts ago, and he actually pitched well in that start. But that means that Philadelphia has this recent familiarity with him as well. So I expect Fried to maybe not do quite as well in that one. And like I said, his stats historically, big sample size, one of the biggest that you'll find against an opposing lineup. Fried has really struggled. Wheeler has been the better of the 2 pitchers, 2.74 ERA, 1 whip. He did just face Atlanta, though, as well. So there's recent familiarity on both sides. So that is a situation where I tend to kind of look towards overs when both starting pitchers just face this opposing lineup. The opposing lineup is used to them and tends to play a little bit better against them and hit a little bit better against them, but I don't want to take an over in a game with Zach Wheeler pitching, man. He's good enough that I don't want to do it. And his stats against Atlanta, he pitched well in that recent start against Atlanta, but we have a 235 at-bat sample size. He's held them to a 230 average and 657 OPS. So Wheeler is the better overall pitcher, has the better stats this year. Fried's whip is definitely a little bit high and indicative that his ERA should probably be a little bit higher, but Fried has much worse numbers against Philadelphia than Wheeler does against Atlanta. Philadelphia in a bounce back spot here. The line looks like it is moving in the direction of Philly to the point where they're a pretty significant favorite, up from minus 138 to minus 154. 75% of the tickets on them, but 94% of the cash. So they're slightly public because they do have the better record than Atlanta does, which is that going to motivate Atlanta a little bit because Atlanta is still kind of fighting behind them in this division. Atlanta, I think they're probably pretty likely to be a wild card at the very least. I mean, their record is quite good, so I don't think they have to worry that much. But I think Philadelphia might be slightly more motivated just because they lost yesterday, and that was a bounce-back situation for Atlanta after Philadelphia took the first game of the series. But the starting pitching matchup, I think, is in favor of Zach Wheeler. You could potentially play a first 5-inning play on this as well if you wanted to, with Wheeler, I believe, having the edge there, and a lot of that being on the edge in the starting pitching matchup there. That is the way that I would look there. And then we got, I was looking towards maybe an over in Dodgers and Arizona. I mean, this is a situation where it is tempting, but there are a couple of reasons why I don't quite want to do it. Last night's game was really high scoring, 10-9, so that would worry me a little bit. And that was in a decent looking pitching matchup between Kershaw and Zach Gallen, and it did not go well for those 2 starters last night. And Kershaw only lasted an inning. And I don't know if he got injured or what, because even though he gave up 3 runs, you'd think he's Kershaw. You'd think they would leave him in the game, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because he came back not that long ago. I don't know. But because of that, it seemed like the Dodgers were not prepared for it, whatever the case may be, because they used 7 pitchers out of their bullpen in that game last night, and the Diamondbacks used 4. So these bullpens, especially the Dodgers bullpen, are kind of trashed after that game. So I think the bullpens are really not in good shape here. Arizona's a good hitting park. So all of this looks like it's an over type of game here. Gavin Stone has decent numbers on the season, 3.33 ERA, but his 1.21 whip. It's a little bit high, kind of indicates that maybe his ERA should be a little bit worse than it is. But one of the things that keeps me off of this is that Gavin Stone has pitched well in the month of August with a 3.25 ERA. So his recent form is quite good, and his last 3 starts have all been really good. Although the start before that, he struggled against Philly and struggled against Oakland before that. So I don't know. So he pitched well against Milwaukee on the road. So that's pretty impressive. But then Seattle and Tampa were his most recent starts. Their offenses aren't really that great. I don't know if I'm talking myself into an over here. I don't think I want to do it, but Gavin Stone, recently he's been pretty decent, but I don't think that he's like the greatest pitcher, but he does have a 30-6 strikeout walk ratio in the month of August, so that is good. But against Arizona's hitters in a 34 at bat sample size, which isn't huge, but they have hit 353 off him and have an 813 OPS off of him. So Stone has not been very good against the Diamondbacks hitters. And then on the other side, the Diamondbacks have Merrill Kelly pitching, and he has not been in good recent form. He came off the DL or whatever after only pitching in March and April this season. He came back this month in August, in the middle of August. He's only made 3 starts since coming back, and he's been not good with a 6.75 ERA and 11-7 strikeout walk ratio and 18 hits allowed in 16 innings pitched. That's not good. He's walking too many guys. His control is a little bit off. Just not great recent form from Merrill Kelly. So that's a little bit dangerous. Although if you look at his splits, he is much better at home than on the road. And 2 of those 3 bad starts were on the road. So that gives me a little bit of pause because his home road splits are crazy. But it's in a limited sample size this season. And of course, those 2 away starts basically were just those ones that I'm talking about that were those 2 recent ones. So I don't know what we can really take away from that. But he's been better in his home starts this season than his road starts. But against the Dodgers, he has not done well in a huge sample size of 234 at-bats. They've hit 303 off him and have an 860 OPS. So Kelly has struggled against him. His overall numbers this season, despite the bad recent starts, are pretty good with a 3.98 ERA and 1.18 whip. So these starters are not that bad, but their stats against these opposing hitters, these opposing lineups are not good. So I do lean to the over in this one, but I don't know if I can quite get there with it. But the bullpen situation, these bullpens are really used up, especially the Dodgers after last night. So if they have to go to the bullpen somewhat early here, I think it's going to be a problem. And we do see the line has moved from 9 juice to the under to 9 juice to the over, and it's at 9.5 in some spots now. 86% of the tickets are on the over, though, and only 84% of the cash because, of course, it's Dodgers, Arizona. They put up 19 runs last night. Everybody knows both of these offenses are really good. So the public is going to come in on the over. Public is not necessarily wrong, and I actually agree with them on this one. I agree with the over, but it's not one that I'm going to do. I am playing a total, but it is an under, and it is in Toronto, Minnesota. This is going to be my only play today. This one, it looks like we have significant splits in the market here, although it looks like the line's moved up from 8.5 juice to the under to 8.5 juice to the over. So you can actually get under 9 in this game. I think you can get that key number of 9. So I do like that. So I am going to do that. Under 9, you can get it the straight up minus 110 right now. So I don't know why the line has moved up, but I do see 60% of the tickets on the over because I think the public is just going to look at this and think, well, Toronto's pitching isn't good, even though they probably know who Barrios is and they know that he's pretty good, but they don't know who Matthews is on the Minnesota side. And they think, well, Toronto has some good hitters. Although I saw Toronto's offense in person, and I've been saying they do have good hitters on their team, but Springer is having a really bad season offensively. Bichette is hurt, and the back end of their starting lineup is really not very good at hitting. So, like, they have a lot of low batting averages. I was actually kind of shocked by that. So Toronto's offense, maybe not as good as you would think, just based on the big names that we know of that Toronto has. Minnesota's offense is pretty decent. So maybe that's why the public is coming in a little bit on the over in this one, and just their tendency to play overs anyway in general. But I see, so 60% of the tickets on the over, but 75% of the cash coming in on the under in this one. And that is where I'm going to be. It looks like the cash is on the under, whereas the public is more on the over with the number of tickets. But the bigger money seems like, based on those percentages, is on the under, even though I don't know what gives with that movement. That seems to be a little bit towards the over, but I'm taking the under in this one. Yesterday, of course, was very low scoring, but I don't think we're getting a lower number on this total because of that. I mean, the total here is sitting at 9. That's not exactly low after a 2-0 game last night, which I won on. Of course, Pablo Lopez pitched really well, but that also means that the bullpen didn't have to be used that much. The Twins used a couple of their best relievers, but they didn't use them for that many pitches. So Jack's only threw 3 pitches. So he's probably still available today, I would imagine, if they really want to use him, because he really didn't throw many pitches last night. Duran, their closer, threw 11 pitches last night in the save. Probably they wouldn't use him again, but I don't know. Maybe it's not totally out of the question. So they only use those 2 relievers, and the Blue Jays only use 2 of their relievers as well, and they only use them for a combined 27 pitches too. So Blue Jays bullpen isn't very good, but their better relievers pitched in the game before that, as I mentioned in my handicap last night. So they're better relievers they didn't use last night, so they're probably available in today's game, or tonight's game, I should say, because most of these games are at night. I'm thrown off by that. The Saturday used to be a lot of afternoon baseball, and now it's mostly evening baseball, and the afternoon baseball is mostly on Sunday because it's getaway day and the teams are traveling to a new series and whatever, but it used to be afternoon games on both days for the most part, so I don't know, but it is a night game tonight, and both bullpens are in pretty good shape for an under here. If these teams need to use their relievers, I think they're in pretty good shape here. And then we look at the starting pitching matchup. You got Jose Barrios on the side of Toronto here. He's been pitching well this season and pitching pretty well recently. A 3.72 ERA in the season, 1.17 whip, 129 to 46 strikeout walk ratio is decent, but he's not really a huge strikeout pitcher. That's in 164 to third inning, so he's throwing a lot of innings. He is a workman. He's probably the best starter in Toronto's rotation. Not that that's that impressive, but he's also only allowed 146 hits. His problem has been the home runs. He's allowed 28 home runs. So that's like the one issue with Barrios, but he's put up some pretty good stats for the most part this season, and his recent stats have been good. His control is good. I mean, he doesn't allow a lot of walks, doesn't allow a lot of hits. This month in August, 2.94 ERA. I saw him pitch well against the Red Sox, and in his most recent game, he's got at least 7 innings in 4 straight starts. But he's coming off that big divisional game. But, I mean, he's a workman starter, man. Like, I don't think he's going to be as prone to the letdown as maybe some of these other pitchers would be. I mean, he's been around for a while. He knows the game, knows the drill. He's got a 32 to 7 strikeout walk ratio this month and 29 hits allowed in 33 2/3 innings. He's allowed 6 home runs, but 3 of them were in one game at Yankee Stadium. But still, again, that is too many home runs, obviously. But in the games after that Yankee game, which was not a very good start for him, he's cooled it a little bit and kept those numbers down a little bit. But he's had good starts since then, allowing 1 and 2 earned runs in all 4 of them, going at least 7 innings in all 4 of them. So he is pitching well. He's in good recent form. And that was in 33 2/3 innings. I don't know if I finished that thought. My mind wanders, man. It's all over the place. And only 29 hits allowed. So the home runs have really been the problem. But he's been good enough that he still kept that ERA this month way down. His ERA was in the 4s for a little while, and it's come back down since that. After he had a pretty bad July, his worst month of the season this year, he has bounced back nicely with a good August. And up against Minnesota's hitters, he's done well against them. We have a big sample size of 86 at-bats, and they've only hit 221 off him with a 647 OPS. So they've struggled against him, and his strikeout walk ratio isn't really good, 25 to 15 against him. So that is certainly too many walks, but he's really held them down hit-wise, and that OPS is still really low because we talk about him allowing too many home runs. They only have 1 home run off of him, Carlos Santana, and he's an ancient man at this point, and he's the one guy that has the home run off him, 38-year-old, and he's one of the guys that has okay numbers. He has somewhat okay numbers against him, I guess. A lot of walks. 9 of those walks are from Santana as well. It's just crazy how much that guy walks. But if you take him out, Barrios really has had pretty dominant numbers against this Minnesota offense, so that's good. And then looking at Barrios, his home road splits worry me slightly. But I'll talk about why I don't think they're as worrisome in this specific stadium. You might know what I'm going to say if you know Barrios. Looking at his splits this season, he has a 2.81 ERA at home, .219 opponent batting average at home, but on the road, he's been a lot worse. 4.67 ERA and .259 batting average. But I just saw him pitch at Fenway, which is a pitcher's park, and he had a nice game in that one. So he is in the groove right now, in the rhythm, but a lot of his road starts have been bad this season. But the reason why I think that that's less of a factor in this game is because he's very familiar with this stadium, Target Field, because he used to play on Minnesota. He was on Minnesota from 2016 until 2021, when I think they traded him over in the middle of the season to the Toronto Blue Jays. So he is very used to playing in this stadium. He's made more starts in his career in this stadium than the Rogers Center, Toronto Stadium. He's made more starts in this stadium than any other stadium in baseball. So he is very familiar with it. He's thrown almost 400 innings in this stadium. He has a 427 to 119 strikeout walk ratio, which is pretty decent actually for the strikeout walk ratio, but he has a 3.63 ERA in 66 starts and 67 appearances in this stadium. 3.63 ERA and 1.16 whip, even though according to Yahoo, it says he's allowed a 377 opponent batting average here, but I don't think that could be right, because he's allowed 343 hits and 398 and 2/3 innings there. So that's a very low amount of hits. That opponent batting average doesn't even seem like it's right. That might be a glitch. I don't know, but his ERA and whip are good in the stadium. He's very familiar with the stadium. So I think that that's all good, man. So I think his road numbers are a little bit less worrisome when you take all that into account, how familiar he is. This is like his home away from home, almost. It's his former home stadium. So he knows it well. He's used to it. And then on the other side, Zebby Matthews is pitching for Minnesota, the rookie. I talk about these rookie pitchers way too much, man, but it is one of my angles. He's made 3 starts so far, and he's pitched 5 innings in each of them, and he's run his pitch count up pretty decently in those. It seems like they're kind of holding him to that 5-inning mark there, but he's pitched pretty well, and he's only allowed 2 and 1 earned runs in those starts against the Royals on the road at San Diego, which is a tough offense to face, although it is a pitching park, and his strikeout walk rate was bad in that game, 1-2, which I've talked about, but he bounced back with another home game with a 7-0 strikeout walk ratio against St. Louis. In those other 2 starts besides the San Diego one, he had no walks in either of them. So his control looks like it's pretty good, man. He's a rookie. I talked about it when he first came up and faced the Royals, and I think I won on that game, and he won. I think he won the game. Yeah, that was his only win so far. He pitched well. I talked about the fact that he has good stats. He's like a decent prospect, or he has good stuff, I should say. I think he has a decent fastball, and he does have the ability to fool major league hitters, and across these 3 starts, we're kind of seeing that so far. He's been able to run up a pretty decent pitch count, so he's getting used to that, and he has a 13-2 strikeout walk ratio and only 13 hits allowed in 15 innings, so that's not too bad, man. And he's allowed 2 home runs, which is, kind of skewing. Oh, man, I got this bad heartburn all the time. It's just kind of skewing his stats even maybe a little bit. And maybe without those, maybe he shouldn't have even allowed as many runs as he has, but that still amounts to a 3 ERA and 1 whip. So nice even numbers there and good numbers across those 3 starts. Pretty decent strikeout walk ratio. That walk number is really low, so his control seems pretty good. That strikeout rate is kind of indicating that he's able to fool these hitters. And in those 2 starts besides the San Diego one, he had a 12-0 strikeout walk ratio in 10 innings. So that is pretty good. And obviously, Toronto has never faced him before. So when these offenses have to face a young starting pitcher who has pretty good stuff, who they haven't seen before, they don't really, they tend to be at a little bit of a disadvantage because it takes them a little bit of time to get used to it and have to adjust to that pitcher. So I think all of that is coming to play here. So Matthews could have the advantage. The first couple of times these hitters have to face him, they won't really know exactly what to expect in that live game environment. So that's the one play in baseball, is the under in Toronto, Minnesota. Under 9 is what you can get. Go check out my college football video. I got 3 plays in there, and let's have a good day, man. Let's have a winning day. I want to have a winning day here. The 2-2, I don't think would cut it, although I wouldn't be that upset about it. But if I'm going to try to make a run at the end of this year to get back to breaking even and not have my second losing year ever over an 18-year span, this has to happen. Let's get it done. Let's kick off the football season. Let's start racking up some wins, man. Peace.